Good evening. Hope you all having a good week, a very useful week, a productive week. And without further ado, I'm gonna speak about Frank Lampard and whether he's the guy to take Chelsea um forward into competing with Man City and Liverpool and in Europe as well in Champions League. And obviously, last season it was really a situation where Chelsea had been given a transfer ban, and Lampard got hired after his time at Derby, where he got to the Championship playoff final, but lost. And so there really wasn't any much expectation for Frank Lampard to kind of compete for the top four even, not just for being out the title race. They weren't really expected to get into the top four, but they did with all the youngsters that Lampard was playing, along with the American signing Pulisic. And so they got to the FA Cup final as well, and lost to Arsenal. And which isn't too surprising because Arsenal do have some good players, obvious one being Aubameyang. But for the most part, a lot of Chelsea fans were happy with the season in general, that they managed to get top four in the Champions League again, and also the transfer ban was lifted from Chelsea and they were allowed to sign players. And it started off with Ziyech from Ajax. And now in the summer, during the summer season, after the season had ended, they also got Timo Werner, Kai Havertz as well from Leverkusen. Timo Werner they got from RB Leipzig. Ben Chilwell from Leicester City. And yeah, I think those were the main players that Chelsea signed this season. And Frank Lampard loves Chelsea. They probably most likely be seen as the club part of the top six that had the best transfer window, which is understandable. But there's one issue, yeah. Now obviously they're gonna let Willian go. It's going to Arsenal, which could be a bit of a loss for them, but we'll see. Highly doubt it, considering the amount of attacking players that they have at their disposal. But throughout last season, one of their main weaknesses was their back line and their goalkeeper. They haven't really addressed the back line, the centre of defence, where honestly, I mean, they were actually worse than Arsenal, statistically speaking, because they had less clean sheets than Arsenal. Chelsea had 8 in the league, and Arsenal had 10, and that's saying something because Arsenal's defence was terrible. But Chelsea, when you look at some statistics, they were worse. And of course, I've already done my video on Kepa. And so, in this transfer window, they haven't gone out and bought a central defender. And which is a bit worrying, because for that second talent you have, you can't always rely on that. You have to also have a reliance on having a good defence. And Lampard this season is under pressure, because last season he showed that he had good, exciting tactics of playing football, being attacking, being creative. That's why Chelsea were scoring a lot of goals through their attackers, but the defence was leaky. Their defence was just there to be exposed. And it's going to be interesting what happens this season, because Frank Lampard, I think personally speaking, from what I've seen of him and how he's managed Chelsea and Derby as well, he can be a good manager. But the question is, is he good enough for Chelsea? That remains to be seen, because Roman Abramovich is known for sacking managers left, right, centre. Sat Mourinho, sat Ancelotti. So, listen, Lampard is arguably Chelsea's greatest player. Arguably, some say John Terry, but you could say Frank Lampard is Super Frank, as they say. But he's not exempt from being sacked if Chelsea underperform, because you're not signing Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Ziyech, Ben Chilwell, players like that, who you're not signing them just for them to finish top 4. You're expected to compete for a title. Minimum requirement for this season is most likely going to be a top 4 finish with a trophy, a domestic trophy, or champion, and along with a Champions League run. That's the minimum requirement. Because now you spent a lot of money into that attack, and you've taken a risk by not spending on a defender, which they could still do, because the transfer window is still open. But it's going to be hard to get rid of Kepa as well, because Chelsea bought him for 70 million, and which I assume has put him on higher wages, and no other club's going to be willing to spend it to pay those wages on a permanent signing. So it's going to be difficult to get rid of Kepa. And as for the defenders, I think Tomori, he shows potential. I think Zuma at times has showed potential. Rudiger, I'm not so sure about. Christensen, he has some games where he's amazing, but other games he's just all over the place. So you can't really be sure with Chelsea defence. Like I said before, statistically, they had less clean sheets than Arsenal. So with 8, that's terrible. It's not good at all. Especially if you're expected this season to be competing for the title, at least. I expect them to finish 3rd under Frank Lampard, but it wouldn't surprise me if Frank Lampard struggles with his team and then they finish outside of the top 4. Wouldn't be surprised at all, honestly. And so there's a lot of questions that Frank Lampard needs to answer as a manager, because this is his team now. There's no excuse. There's no ban that's been put on Chelsea. Results are expected, and he has to deliver. And so, yeah, I mean, Chelsea fans, I'm sure they certainly want him to do well, because obviously he's a massive legend for Chelsea in their glory years at the start with Mourinho. But now he's the manager, and he's got to make some tactical decisions that will help Chelsea be a success this season. And so that's pretty much all I have to say. We'll see we'll see this season if Frank Lampard has really got the minerals to be a great coach, to be a great manager in the top domestic league. We'll see. Because now the heat is on him. Now I think on Monday they played Brighton. They won 3-1. But Chelsea weren't looking too dominant. Now it's only one game to start the season. We'll see what happens. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on Frank Lampard. We'll see, because there were lots of games last season where Chelsea should have won, but they lost. They lost at home, Southampton, to West Ham. there are lots of games where they kind of some will argue that last season Chelsea should have gotten third place, but then they were dropping points from games. They lost away 3-0 to Sheffield United, and this is where yet again I'm addressing the defence. They were terrible. Kepa's been terrible for the last 2 seasons, arguably. And so now Frank Lampard has he has to deliver. He's got to deliver. And if he doesn't, the axe is in waiting. And that's all I have to say. We'll see what happens this season. Take care. God bless.